When people think of Danny DeVito, they're usually reminded of his many acting roles over the years, from Taxi to Twins to Batman Returns to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He has certainly been an entertaining presence over the years, but what I think also deserves admiration is his skill as a director. Through the 7 feature films he has directed, DeVito crafted his own identifiable style, and he seemed to have a particular interest in what makes people do terrible things. His feature directing debut came with the made-for-television film The Ratings Game. This was the first movie produced for the Showtime network, and while it does not have as many of the crazy camera angles he would implement in his later work, the ingredients that define a DeVito film are still there. The main character is a schemer who just wants his television show to be a big hit, and he manipulates the Nielsen ratings through some unethical means to make that possible. Even though what his character does is not right, there's a strange element of sympathy as he deals with television network executives who want to purposely sabotage his show. It's a biting satire of the television industry, and Vito did seem to use this film to air out some things, and having gotten his big break on sitcoms, he certainly knew a thing or two about that world. The Ratings Game is a wacky movie with a decent amount of laughs, especially the extent to which the lead protagonist tries to pull off the scheme and prove DeVito had promise as a director. His style would really come out in full force in Throw Momma from the Train, of all kinds of shots and editing choices that capture the feelings felt by the characters, especially an aspiring writer towards his mother. There's an obvious Hitchcock influence with the Strange on a Train inspired story, but also quite a bit of the feel of Ealing Studios, the British company known for dark comedies like The Ladykillers. The film showcased DeVito's ability at working with actors, in this case Billy Crystal and Anne Ramsey, who received a well-deserved Oscar nomination for a role as an overbearing mother. The interactions between the characters are so funny, and we also understand their motivations and what drives them. Like The Ratings Game, these are flawed characters who do things for their own personal gain, no matter how troublesome they might be. This was a film that showed Dan DeVito was not interested in directing a comedy the typical way. He wanted to play around with what the genre could do visually. With The War of the Roses, DeVito would take his signature style and apply it to a movie about divorce, albeit a divorce where both parties go to extremes to get what they want, which is another common theme in the movies he has directed. The way the story escalates as the hate between Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner grows, and they get more violent, leads to some fascinating turns, and the actors also completely understood the tone DeVito was going for. He films the movie to look almost like a traditional Christmas movie, even though it's anything but. Neither of these are particularly nice characters, but that's the point of the film, as we see this marriage crumble because of their own choices and how they treat each other. By the way, here's an interesting fact. The War of the Roses was a big hit in Germany, and the direct translation of the film's title is now used in the country to describe a divorce that gets ugly as the soon-to-be ex-spouses battled out. It's always fascinating when a director makes a film that seems to resonate with a particular country in a surprising way. While dark comedies make up the bulk of his directing output, DeVito clearly had a desire to try different things. Case in point is Hoffa, a big ambitious biopic about Jimmy Hoffa. The film is very much a sprawling biography that digs into who Hoffa was, why he made enemies, and the impact he would have on union organizations. Storytelling-wise, it does not venture too far off the biopic formula, although there is an interesting framing device of Hoffa and his closest companion, a fictional composite played by DeVito, waiting in the middle of nowhere. The film explores Hoffa's rise and his feuding with everyone who opposes him, and again DeVito makes good use of his actors, particularly Jack Nicholson in the title role. Hoffa is almost going for something akin to a Martin Scorsese movie, and funnily enough, Scorsese would himself tackle Hoffa several years later in The Irishman. It's about an angry man who frustrates everyone despite his role in the rise of the Teamsters. The film does play fast and loose with history, but is primarily elevated by DeVito's stylish direction and Nicholson's performance, and I find Hoffa to be an engaging film, although received a polarized response at the time, and that has not changed much since its original release. My personal favorite film, directed by DeVito, is his adaptation of Roald Dahl's Matilda. Like many people, I have a nostalgic affection for the movie, but my appreciation for DeVito's approach to the material has only grown over time. Unlike his other movies, Matilda has a more sentimental feel. While we still get a lot of his characteristic sense of humor with how he depicts Matilda's parents and Miss Trunchbull, the movie also offered DeVito a chance to make something sweeter. I think some of the best scenes in the movie involve Matilda just going about her day and hanging out with her teacher, Miss Honey. He also highlights the cruelty of those adults who look down on her and don't realize just how intelligent she is. He even built quite a few tense scenes and handled the overall tone of the movie with ease, making it all the more cathartic when Trunchbull is defeated. DeVito was the right fit to direct a film adaptation of a Roald Dahl book, as they seem to share a similar dislike for hateful people who just want to put others down. And even though the setting was changed to the United States, it's one of the more faithful adaptations of his work. It's surprising Danny DeVito never directed another Dahl adaptation, but maybe this was the story closest to his heart. I truly think Matilda is one of those timeless family films that will continue to be passed down to each new generation, and for movie release back in 1996, it has not aged a day. DeVito will go from directing a movie about a child to a movie about children's television with his next film, Death to Smoochy. This is a fascinating comedy that I don't think entirely works, but I admire the bold swings it takes. Death to Smoochy aims its target largely at how children's television characters are commercialized and the possibility that maybe the people behind them are not as pleasant as they seem. He plays with the contrast between the cynical and jaded Rainbow Randolph and the more innocent Sheldon Mopes and how they navigate the television industry. It's a film with a lot of ideas, game actors up for anything, and it has its funny moments here and there. But I find the script to be all over the place. It throws so much at the audience, and I find the most surprising thing about it is how it's not nearly as satirically sharp as it could have been. Death to Smoochy did not seem to win over many people when it was originally released, as it was a box office flop, and Roger Ebert even named it the worst movie of 2002. A little harsh, I think, although Richard Roeper did make this interesting comment when discussing the movie on their show.
Usually when a movie with this much talent behind it is so bad, you even get a cult following. People who say, no, we love Death to Smoochy, here's why. I have seen no such cult following for this movie.
Well, it turns out the film has grown a cult following. While I would not count myself among them, I understand why this strange comedy was able to attain one. Duplex, on the other hand, is a film that seems to have been largely forgotten, and I can understand why. The film has promise, as it saw DeVito return to throw Momma from the train territory, and there's so much comedic potential in a couple who find themselves irritated by an incredibly noisy upstairs tenant. I see the jokes there on screen and what it's trying to do, and this has so many ingredients that should make me enjoy it. However, the comedy is surprisingly flat, and it just lies there. Despite Ben Stiller and Drew Barrymore's best efforts, their characters are not interesting, and neither is the old lady. Duplex is a movie that registered so few laughs for me. Like Smoochy, this was a box office flop and was hated by critics, and it seems these back-to-back failures led to less studios calling him for directing gigs. Since then, he's largely kept acting, including his celebrated role on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He did direct a television pilot for a sitcom starring Alicia Silverstone, which was not picked up, as well as a few short films. He also directed a thriller titled Saint Sebastian, but that was all the way back in 2011, and it's been sitting in a vault ever since with no explanation for why it has never been released. In any case, Danny DeVito has managed to direct an eclectic mix of films that showcases dark comic sensibilities as well as a visual style that is uniquely his own. I personally think his directorial output is absolutely deserving of more appreciation. See you next time.